And what the problem with the modern Muslims is, we are very distant from the Quran. We're distant from it in its meanings as well as in its protection, because the Quran is protective even without understanding it. I mean, somebody told me last night that their mother was illiterate, couldn't read, from Afghanistan. She said all she wanted to do was read the Quran. And so I said, just tell her, to do wudu and to listen to the tape if nobody's there to read it, and for her to just put her fingers on the letters, because it's part of the Quran, is that the ibadah of the eye, just looking at the Quran is ibadah. If you actually look at the Quran, it's ibadah. Just to look at the letters, even if you're ajami. And also the hand, al-yad tusharik fi tilawa. And that's why holding the Quran. And that's why the ulama say that al-qira'a min al-mushaf aktharu ajran min al-qira'a min al-hifz. That reading from the mushaf has more reward than reading from memory. Because the eye shares in it, the hand shares in it. That's what she would do. She would just sit and listen to the Quran, and she would just put her hands on the words, and she had a stroke doing that. So that's a protection, just to have that connection with the Quran and to recite the Quran. If you look also at a lot of what's happening, see, Muslims take one part of the Quran, they don't take other parts. أَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. You believe in some parts, you don't believe in others. The Quran is a holistic book. You can't take verses in the Quran without taking other verses. Some verses are harsh, they have other verses that temper them. في آيات فيها عذاب وفيها يعني غلظة وشدة وتلينها آيات أخرى. And if you just take the ayat, if you just take Tawbah as a surah, and all you do is read Tawbah, you'll be a monster. Wallahi, you'll be a monster. It's a disaster. If you just took Tawbah and made that's your deen, Surah At-Tawbah, you'll end up being a monster. Because Tawbah is only one portion of the Quran, and it relates to adawa. When there's adawa, when there's khiyana, when there's belligerence. And at that point you need to have shiddah, because if people are belligerent with you, you have to defend yourself. We don't wait till they come and massacre us. Muslims aren't told to do that. We're told to defend ourselves, to أَعِدُّ مَسْتَطَعْتُ مِنْ قُوَّةٍ, to prepare, to be prepared. You don't want to sit around and wait for somebody to come and massacre you. That's not the way of the Muslims. The Muslims believe in self-defense, and every constitutional law in the world has that right. People have a right to defend themselves. And that's what the Quran tells you. And in those times, if somebody's coming with a gun or a knife at you, you don't start hugging them and marhaban, ahlan wa sahlan. No, you give them a nar bin nar. But if somebody's coming you, they're nice and being, it's nice to meet you. You don't pull your sword out and say, Allahu Akbar, takbir. Yani off with his head. I read Surah At-Tawbah. It's in there. No, you have to read other surah. لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم إن الله يحب المقسطين. You have to read other ayahs that temper the verses, and that's the way the Quran is.